Welcome back to the Meeple Marathon and our continued coverage of XORAKUS. This is a cooperative exploration, action selection, deck building game. And today we're going to be doing a solo playthrough, first couple rounds of a game, of a shorter game, but again, we won't play through the whole thing. But this is just to show off the features in a flow of actual gameplay. If you're interested more in total how the game plays or an explanation and overview of the game, you can check out my other video just giving you a preview of the game. But today is just meant to be a kind of playthrough so you can see the game in action. As I noted, we are choosing to play kind of a shorter game, and again, we're not going to play through the whole thing, but we just have a single essential system that we are trying to fix on the Daedalus, which is our ship here that is crash landed in the crater, and we're trying to fix the thrusters on the Daedalus. Once we do that and play the proper cards, we'll be able to take off and escape the planet. We also have a few non-essential systems that if we repair those, they will help us. We have weapon systems, communications, and the infirmary. So say, for example, we're getting low on health, we may want to repair the infirmary so it can help us heal. And the Daedalus itself always has some actions that we can take on it. This is an exploration game, so we're going to be moving our miniature or our acrylic standee around the map here. Now, I'm going to play with these laying down so you can clearly see them, but I do want to point out, if you didn't see my previous video, how sweet these standees are, because they're super thick and they stand up on their own. So there's no need for a base or any additional acrylic. They stand up on their own perfectly, just like that. Full color acrylic. Really love these. Can't say enough about them. But you always start the game there on the Daedalus. And I've gone ahead and drawn, I have a starting deck, which I have here. I have my improvement deck. So these are the cards I'm going to add or build my deck with right here. I have a starting equipment of a crowbar, and that's based on his board here. So it says, starting item. So I searched through the item deck and found the crowbar. And I also have 5 kind of action tokens here. That's because when you're playing solo, you get 5 actions. The higher your player count, the lower the number of actions each individual player is going to get. I have a little player aid here, and we are good to go. I also have our big status display here. Body count is set to 0. I think that's pretty much, we've covered pretty much everything. So let's go ahead and get started. The first thing I want to do is actually go ahead and start building my deck, and I have a card here in my hand that can help me do that. So this is Improve. So I'm going to play Improve. It's going to sit right here. Playing that card takes an action, so I'll flip over one of these tokens. And this says, reveal 3 cards from your improvement deck. You gain 1 of them to your discard pile and burn the other 2 to your improvement deck. You may burn a card from your discard pile if you choose. You may reshuffle your improvement deck. So I'm not going to worry too much about that latter stuff, but let me show you how this works. So I'm going to draw 3 cards here, and I have plan B. This is going to be additional drawing of cards. I have a first aid, so this is going to allow me to heal throughout. These are all cards that are going to go into my deck, and as I continue to play these cards and reshuffle this deck, this will come back up. I'm not hurt right now. I've got some... I don't feel like I need card draw right now, so we're going to go with metal fabrication, because this is going to help me get the materials I need to fix the thrusters. So knowing that that's my goal and it's going to require a lot of metal, we're going to take this and we're going to start our discard pile right over here. Now, by burning these, I simply place them at the bottom of the deck. Now, it's giving me the option to shuffle my improvement deck if I so choose. Maybe I really want to see those cards come back earlier, so I would choose to shuffle. At this point, I'm okay with them being at the bottom, but just know that burn means different things in other games. And this one, it doesn't mean to like completely remove them from the game. It just means put them on the bottom of whatever stack they came from. So if it tells you to burn an encounter, you would put on the bottom of that specific encounter stack, so on and so forth. So, all right, we have gone ahead and played Improve. That was our first action. I think we're ready to go now. So we're going to spend an action to move. The Daedalus is its own space, so we're going to move, we'll stand him up just this once, out onto the crater. So the surrounding crater is its own space. And then we're going to spend a third action to move into the small lake here. So there's some symbols up here that will be referenced by cards. I don't have any cards in my hand right now that would activate those symbols. Here you can see, like here's an example of a symbol here. There's a combat symbol. I don't have any of these symbols right now, so I'm not going to worry about them. But because I've entered a new location on the board, I do need to draw some encounter cards. This first, you see there's two symbols of blue cards here. That's because this is a wetland location, so I need to draw wetland encounter cards, this stack right here. This first stack is if this were the first time I was flipping over this tile, say I explored outside of my map right here and flipped over a tile for the first time, I would actually draw two encounters, one at a time, because as soon as an enemy becomes present, you actually stop drawing encounters. If an enemy is present in your location, you cannot move and you cannot encounter anything else. So at this point though, the dash represents that everything on the right side is for every other time other than the first time you see this location. And since this is our starting setup, we kind of ignore everything on the left. So I'm just going to draw one wetland encounter card here. All right. So we drew a sacred beast. This is an enemy, and it actually comes with a meeple here, or a acrylic meeple. So there's our sacred beast. You can see it stands up perfectly on its own. I'm going to lay it down just so you guys can see it better. But this beast can do 3 damage at does 3 damage if it is able to damage you and has 2 hit points. So it takes 2 hit points to damage this beast. It also then says during the movement phase, it follows the movement deck directions where Sacred Beast is specified. So we're going to talk about the movement phase. That happens after all of the players have gone. But the movement phase essentially activates and moves the enemies around. And it says, if the Sacred Beast is killed, add 2 to the body count on the status display dial. So again, this is a XORAKian, or, it's almost like being a cow in India. This is a sacred beast here. So if we kill it, the XORAKians are going to feel not only like we've hurt them, but double the amount of pain for them that way. So we'll see what happens with the Sacred Beast here, but I'm going to keep this card out for reference. I've also played this card. This doesn't go into my discard pile till the end of my turn. It's in my play area, and that is important for certain skills and other things that can pull things out of your discard pile. If you've just played it, it has to stay out. But for right now, we're good. The Sacred Beast, we've just kind of, maybe it's on the opposite side of the lake from us or something like that. He is pretty nasty. He can do 3 damage to us. But he's only got 2 hit points, so not too bad. Don't know quite yet if I want to kill him, though. Let's, again, think about what we've done. We've spent 3 out of our 5 actions. So I think what we're going to do next now is play, because there's some cards I'm looking for. So I'm going to play Plan. Now, this is another reason why I put that other one, Plan B, skill back on the bottom, because I have this one. This one's doing pretty good. So this is allowing me to draw 4 cards. You may place any of the other 3 cards, draw 4 cards, put one into your hand, sorry. You may place any of the other 3 cards on top of your deck in any order. If any cards remain, discard them. So we are going to go ahead and draw 4 cards. 1, 2, 3, 4. And so we have computer science, repair, design, and communicate. I think we're going to want communicate. I can't use repair, but here you can see this symbol here matches the symbol on here. So once I've gathered my resources, this, which makes sense, it's the repair card, is the card I'm going to want to play to check off these things here and then be able to take off. So I don't need this card yet. Communication, I don't need design yet. This is a engineer specific card that would allow me to jump ahead of the materials and start repairing. So we're just going to take communicate. We're going to add it to our hand. And the other ones we're going to go ahead and we're just going to discard for now. All right. And that was an action because I played a card. Now for our final action, I could play close combat, but instead we're going to play sneak. So sneak here is a duration skill. So that means it's going to stay out until basically the criteria that's on the card has been met. So this says avoid all damage from enemies. Perfect. So I'm going to be avoiding this 3 damage no matter what happens. I'm sneaking around. It says duration. Leave this in play and avoid damage until the next time a movement phase ends. So since I'm playing this now, and this is going to be my 5th action, this is going to end my turn and a movement phase is going to begin. But this card stays active. I sneak around until the end of that movement phase. So for now, I am safe. It says also you may escape captivity, rescue one encountered captive, unlock an adjacent city, or steal any one item or resource in a city. So again, these are multi-use cards. This one's just saying that you can use this for a lot of stuff. Sneaking can be very handy. So this room does take up quite a footprint. I've got everything kind of smushed in here so I can fit it on the camera. At this point, we're done. So we're going to kind of go through the end of turn phases, the reset phases. These 2 cards are finally going to go into my discard pile. This one is going to stay out because it is a duration skill. All right. So at this point, the engineer has taken all 5 of his actions. I also can draw back up. I could choose to discard any of these cards I want out of my hand. I'm going to choose to keep them for right now, and then I'm going to draw back up to 5. I've got 1 card here in my stack, so just like a typical deck builder, we're going to take these, we're going to shuffle them up, and we're going to start a new deck. So, all right, we've kind of reset after that round, and now we're going to go into the movement phase, which is basically the enemy phase. So we're going to draw our first movement card here. And the first thing we need to look at is in this upper right corner. In the upper right corner here, it says that there's a 1, and it's in a blue hexagon with the water symbol. So that tells us this is the wetland locations. And so we need to take 1 XORAKIAN. These are like the natives, okay? They don't have a card. They're not going to pop up here in the thing in the encounters. They're going to pop up during movement. And so they've kind of popped onto the board into the swamp and the small lake. Every wetland is going to get 1 XORAKIAN. So we'll leave him standing up because it's getting kind of crowded in the small lake. And so we accomplished that. The movement cards is how the native XORAKIANs make it on and off the board. So now that we've placed our XORAKIANs based on the symbols up here in the upper right, we go to moving enemies. Now, XORAKIANs that just entered the board don't actually move. So we're going to ignore these 2 guys. This guy is actually where he would want to be at this point. And then the Sacred Beast is not going to move because it's already in a location with a hero character or a player character. So it's also not going to move. So the rest of this card we're actually going to ignore for right now. At this point, and we will start a little discard pile up here. At this point, now, both of these characters, the XORAKIAN and the Sacred Beast, would engage the engineer. The Sacred Beast obviously doing damage to the engineer. But since we've played Sneak, we avoid all of that damage. It's now the end of the movement phase, so I discard Sneak. And you see how this is important because Sneak now is sitting in my discard pile. It's not being quickly shuffled back in because it was a duration card. So that now ends essentially round 1. The movement phase is over, so we're ready to begin round 2. So as we begin round 2 here, we are in a situation where we are in a location with 2 enemies. Now, I mentioned earlier that once you end up moving into a location and enemies appear, you cannot encounter any additional things in that space, nor can you move. But if you begin your turn in a space with enemies, you are allowed to move. So we're going to go ahead and see what else we can see. So we're going to explore a little bit, take up some of this room here. So as an action, whoops, and I forgot to flip all of my tokens over. Here we go. All right. So as an action, I'm going to explore. I'm essentially moving one space, but I haven't seen what it's going to be here. So let's flip this over here, and we have glassified plane. All right, and I immediately move into this location. And also now we're going to take on the left number of encounters. But this means that if we come back to the glassified plane, now that it's been revealed, we're actually not going to encounter anything. I mean, it's a big wide open plane. There's nothing for anything to hide. So that makes sense. So let's see what we encounter here on the glassified plane. All right. We actually found a blaster pistol. Now I can pick this up for free. I could leave it here next to the location if I was playing with multiple characters. We're obviously going to pick that up because right now I'm just toting a crowbar around. And what this is giving me here is the ability to attack at range. I still have to have a range symbol in one of my cards to activate it, but I will be able to cause 2 damage to one encountered enemy, and there are some enemies that can only be attacked via range. So we've got our crowbar, we've got our blaster pistol. I'm feeling pretty good about our move there. Now, we all know the plan here. The plan is to repair the thrusters, so the boneyard seems like a perfect place to go next. So I'm going to again spend another action token to move into the boneyard. And you can see as we moved in here, there's only one choice for the boneyard. There's lots of stuff in the boneyard, so anytime you enter it, whether it's the first time or the last time, you are going to have 2 encounters. Now, it's important to flip these over one at a time because if we encounter an enemy, we stop drawing encounters. So first things first, we have a backpack. All right, this is going to be our 3rd item. It's going to fill up our item slots for our engineer, but the backpack essentially allows you to carry additional items. This card takes up 1 of your item spots, but you may stagger up to 3 items on top of it. So perfect. I'll be able to carry stuff in my backpack. That was 1. We have to draw another card here, and we've got Rock Prowler. All right, so we have another enemy. Now, this enemy actually doesn't have a standee at the moment because it, A, is an instant engagement enemy. So we have to imagine it's popping out of the rubble, it's attacking us directly, and it's going to cause damage as soon as it's encountered. And then it says during the movement phase, it scuttles away behind some boulders to the bottom of the arid deck. So this thing doesn't stick around. Maybe there'll be a meeple for it, but the designers noted that since it's not an enemy that stays put, they don't have a meeple for it at the moment. It's just a card. All right, but right now this thing is trying to attack me for 1 damage, and it only takes 1 damage. So let's see if we have anything we can do about that. Now, I saved this card there's a lot of enemies on the board, but this is close combat, and it's a combat skill. It says use this card's icon. So I'm playing this card. Let's not forget we got to flip over an action token. Use this card's icons to activate a weapon once and avoid 1 damage from an enemy. Perfect. So we can see here that it's causing melee damage, and obviously since it's causing melee damage, we can melee damage it. If this was like a flying enemy, we might only be able to use ranged, but I can use the crowbar here. So by spending close combat, not only am I avoiding the 1 damage from the Rock Prowler, I'm also activating, I have 2 symbols, I only need 1, but this says cause 2 damage to 1 encountered enemy. This also says that this weapon may not be used more than once in the turn, so technically I'll have to flip this over until I reset. But at this point, I have dodged the Rock Prowler and done a damage in return. Now, since this is not a Sacred Beast and it's not a Zorakian, it does not have the Zorakian keyword, I don't, luckily, have to raise the body count. So we're still good there. This can be burned to the bottom of the arid deck. So we may see the Rock Prowler come back up. And this also has been spent. So it's been played, so I kind of need to leave it out here. I'm not going to get it back right away. All right, for our fourth action, we came into the boneyard so we could search. And I have a salvage card in my hand. So we're going to play this as our fourth action. So this one says, in spaces showing this card's icon, which is the S with the kind of recycling symbol. Here we see the S for salvage. Reveal 3 cards from the resource deck. If revealed, you can gain 1 titanium alloy, machine parts, electronics, or glass, and burn the rest. So unfortunately, I only get to keep 1, and it's got to be one of those items. So if I find other stuff, I guess maybe I don't know how to handle it, but let's see what we got here. So we've got 1, 2, 3. We have, we're looking for titanium alloy, machine parts, electronics, or glass. And so I've got weapons grade plasma, I've got copper, but I've got machine parts. So this is one of the items that I'm allowed to keep using salvage. Now, maybe down the road, I improve my deck over here, and salvage allows me to keep maybe more than 1 card or a higher range of cards, something like that. But for now, this is the only thing I can keep. So this is what I'm going to keep, and I'm going to place it into my backpack. And I burn the rest of these, so they go to the bottom of the resource deck. All right, and this is again another play card. I'm going to stack it on top of close combat, because we're about to reset anyways, because before my final action, I now actually have something I can place into the thrusters to begin my repairs. So I'm going to make my way back towards the Daedalus. The Daedalus is also kind of a safe space for you when there's lots of enemies around. All right, at this point, we're going to reset. So I would get my crowbar back. I would get all of my action tokens back. I'm going to place these 2 into my discard pile. And I've got Communicate and Decipher. Let's see, do I want to... Yeah, I think I'm going to keep both of these in my hand. So then we'll draw 3 more cards back up to 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right. I believe that's it. We are ready to move on to the second movement phase. So we're going to come here, we're going to draw the top movement phase card. And something I did not discuss in the playthrough, but I'll show you guys here now. The movement is set into phases, and they tell you how to kind of seed the deck beforehand based on the phases. So there's a bunch of phase 3 cards here, a couple phase 2 cards, and then just I think it was 5 phase 1 cards. But phase 1 movement cards are not going to be as harsh as, say, phase 3. So that's also going to ramp up the difficulty as the game goes on. All right, so we have no symbols up here in the corner, so no additional Zorakian natives are going to come out. And then we look here, and we got to find how these guys are grouped together. So Zorakian enemies with prisoners, no. Zorakian groups, no. These guys are not considered a group because the Sacred Beasts and the Zorakians are separate. So these guys are essentially individual. So this is single Zorakian enemies and Sacred Beasts. This says they are on the move. They are going to move in direction A. Well, the crater is always going to be your starting location with the Daedalus in the middle. And we can see that Cardinal A is giving us a direction. And so everybody's going to move towards A. Now this is going to move these 2 enemies off the map. Now, in other games, they would simply just not move. They would stay put, or maybe they would be pinged to the opposite direction. There's various ways that people have handled that. I actually really like the fact that in this scenario, these 2 guys just come off the board. They've kind of wandered off into the wilderness. They may come back because this Sacred Beast card, since they wandered off, is going to get burned to the bottom of its deck. And we know Zorakians are going to come back. So I really like that they can just kind of disappear from sight, but they do have the opportunity to come back. At this point, I have no enemies in my space to engage with, so I'm good to go. And we are ready to move on to round 3. All right, so we know how we want to handle the first part of our turn here. We're going to spend an action to move on to the Daedalus here. And so now that we're there, as a free action, we can burn a card. This is not playing a card. This card was not in our hand. And this says machine parts. If you're on board the Daedalus, you may burn this to check a machine part spot on any system that requires machine parts. So that's exactly what we're going to do. Again, this is not playing a card, so this is like a free action for us. Now, I could come here and begin repairing the weapon systems. That's the only thing, but we are obviously here to fix the thrusters, and so we're going to put a check mark on machine parts. All right, so we're a third of the way of getting everything we need to repair the thrusters and then taking 2 of the repair actions. There's actually a few other free actions that you can take on your turn. One of them is the skills on your player board here. So preliminary repairs says you may start repairs early, playing one of your system's skill requirements if it only has 1 resource spot left to check. So essentially what that's saying is that if I can either find electronics or titanium alloy, I can go ahead and start working on these 2 spots on the right. Normally you have to fulfill everything on the left before you move to the right, but being an engineer, he can jump that. Well, I only have 1. I need 2 filled before I can do that. So can't do that one yet. But problem solving here says once per turn, you may reveal 1 card from your deck, put it into your hand if it's a mechanical skill. Well, let's just take a look. Why not? And it is. Look at that. We got metal fabrication, which is a mechanical skill. So if we decide to play this, it would be an action. It was a free action to draw it. But here you can see mechanical skill, check. We get to keep it. Burn an ingredient that requires material fabrication, then gain the resource as described. For example, we can burn titanium ore to gain titanium alloy, etc. Or I can burn nothing for +1 card and +1 action. So that might come in handy. So we're going to keep this. You know, we have to reset our hand to 5 at the end of our turn, but for now, it's okay that we have 6 cards in hand. All right, back to what we want to do. I actually have some cards in here, 2 cards, and a person on the board. So let's go make some friends. Again, the XORAKians are the local natives. They're not necessarily just raw enemies. So I'm going to spend 2 actions, 1, 2, move into the crater, and then move into the boulder field here. So now I'm in the same location as the XORAKian. Again, it doesn't automatically attack me. They're not necessarily savages. And so my 4th action, I'm going to play a card from my hand, and that's going to be Decipher. So, and also, since there's already something to encounter in this location, I don't draw this arid encounter. Also, technically, sorry, that's on the left, so that would have been when I first flipped this over. Now that I'm coming in here for the second time, if there was nobody here, I still wouldn't draw anything. That happens a lot with the arid locations because they're arid. There's not a lot there. But let's get back to me playing Decipher. So Decipher here says that I can check language or check tech. If you check language, you may avoid fighting a XORAKian enemies this round. Perfect. Restrictions. To check language, you must be encountering a XORAKian enemy or be in the city or the outskirts. Perfect. I'm not going to read the rest about tech because we don't fit that criteria yet. But what we have done is we have come to and we have encountered a XORAKian and we had the Decipher card to play. We played it. So now we've learned their language. We're able to communicate with them. Okay, that also means we've avoided conflict with them because we made the attempt to communicate with them or learn their language. They're not going to attack, at least for this round. I'm not saying things are going to be perfect forever, but for now, and then as our 5th and final action, I have the other perfect combo card here to play. And this says, you can see here there's a little lock symbol because this says you have to have a check on the language to unlock this card. Perfect. I finally checked the language. So now this says use this card's icon to activate an ability showing on the dial. Restriction, you must be encountering a Zorakian enemy. Duration, see the abilities on the status display. So we get to come back here to the status display. Luckily, we have not killed any of the Zorakians at this point, so we're doing good as far as you can see. There's only communication options here. Unfortunately, communication only gives us this particular card. Now, in our improvement deck, we're hopefully going to have cards that we can add to our deck that would give us double the speech bubbles and maybe play Avoid, Fight, and Ransom a Prisoner. We don't need to worry about that. Nobody's been taken prisoner. But for right now, we only have access to these because of the one speech bubble. So just hoping that everybody has figured that out while we've got it. So we've got Avoid, Fight, and Trade. We've Avoid, Fight, and Plead Innocent. We have Avoid, Fight, and Misdirect. And we have Avoid, Fight, and Unlock the City. Now, I don't have all these memorized here, so let's open up our operations guide and see what our options are. So, communications abilities. Unlock the City. We don't have the city, so we can't do that one. We can't do the Ransom Prisoner because we don't have 2 bubbles. Avoid and Misdirect requires at least 1 word bubble icon, and then for each icon you played, you can move up to 6 Zorakian enemies 1 space. So playing 2 lets you move up to 6. I'm not too worried about that because he's not going to attack me this round. We already established that through the Decipher card. And then this one says Avoid, Fight, and Plead Innocent. You may reduce the Zorakian body count. Well, I don't need to do that because my body count's at 0. And then this one says Avoid, Fight, and Trade. Requires 1 word bubble icon. We got that. This lets you trade with Zorakians. To do so, first burn 1 item or vehicle. Then you may draw 3 cards from the item or resources deck. Choose 1 to put in the Zorakian's space and burn the other 2. You may pick up the item if it's in your space, but many vehicles have gaining requirements. Encountered Zorakian enemies are persuaded not to cause damage. Again, we're avoiding the fight. All right, so I think that's what we're going to choose here because the name of the game for us is to fix the thrusters. So this is going to allow us to get additional resources out. What did it say? I think it said 3 resource cards. Yeah, 3 cards from the resource deck. So I've got my crowbar or my blaster pistol. And I think it's going to be the blaster pistol. Crowbar is actually going to be more beneficial if we end up back in the boneyard looking for the stuff we need here. So we're going to essentially, we're going to burn this card. We're going to give this to the Zorakian that we just learned to speak with. And in turn, he's going to give us 3 random resources that he had in his pouch. So let's see what we got here. We've got titanium alloy, biogel, and electronics. Ooh, this is tough because I need both of these. But I mean, who knows what we'll see. So let's keep titanium alloy. Technically, it goes into that space, but we can pick it up for free. That's another free action. These get burned to the bottom of the deck. Ideally, I'd love to see a way to shuffle that deck to maybe get electronics back up. But then I'm going to instantly pick this up. I could put it here. I'm going to put it into my backpack just because. And now all I need to do is get this back to the data list. I can now put a check mark on titanium alloy, and then as the engineer, I can begin work on repairing the thrusters. So I actually don't need to find electronics. I don't think so. Actually, we'll probably need to confirm that just to make sure. We'll work on confirming that with the designer, but I think that's how this engineer works. I also forgot to flip over all of, well, no, we're resetting now. So that was my 5th action. And there we go. At this point, I have 1, 2, 3, 4 cards in hand. I think I'm going to keep all of them. I really don't need metal fabrication, but that's fine. So I'm just going to draw 1 card. That's draw my hand back up. And we're going to stop there. This gives you guys a general idea. Kind of covers, I was able to utilize everything, the status display, the improvement deck. work towards fixing an essential system. You got to see some encounters. The only thing we didn't get to use, which is really cool, is this thing from Alien that the people fit in. I think this is so cool. I just love getting that loader thing out. But at this point, obviously, on sequential rounds, I would move back into the data list, place titanium alloy. I would use the engineer's skills to hit their special preliminary repairs to at least place one here. If I couldn't repair the second one, I would then have to go out and find electronics. Maybe I come back to the boneyard. Maybe I go exploring somewhere else so that I can pick up something via an encounter. We know that the boneyard is just going through the resources deck. These other encounters might find us something that we could then use material fabrication on. That's titanium ore and titanium alloy, but we might, or maybe we need to improve some more. So lots of options as to how you can solve this problem. And again, I feel like each character is different in how they can go about accomplishing this task. It's all about fixing the data list, but each character has their own unique skills to get you there. So that's going to conclude our solo playthrough for now. And if you have any questions, please feel free to let me know in the comment section below. I'll do my best to answer them. If I don't know the answer, I'll reach out to the designer myself and get you the answer. But yeah, I'm really excited about this one. Love what they're doing here. And again, this has all just been a prototype. So everything you see here is still a work in progress, but it's an amazing prototype. I've been very happy with it. So go back this campaign, support this project, and let's see where it goes. If you enjoyed this video, please consider giving it a thumbs up and subscribing to the channel. Once again, thanks for watching. Have a great day.